Good afternoon, friends. This is GB Shivakumar again. Thanks for the continuous support. And this is the third part of video on Agile and Scrum, right? So now actually we are seeing about the Agile methodologies of project management and the Scrum methodologies, right? So in my first video we have seen about the different aspect of Scrum, right? And so we have seen about what is Agile, why we need Agile, and then actually importance of Agile, need for Agile, Agile characteristics, Agile myths. So Agile is having 4 different values and having 12 myths, Agile myths, Agile manifesto, Agile, what is Agile mindset. So Agile manifesto values, Agile manifesto principles, that is all 12 principles. In Agile methodologies, we have screened about Scrum, XP, Lean, Kanban, all these things. And so in my second video, we have seen about the Scrum pillars. What is first? What is Scrum? What is the need? How to run end-to-end Scrum projects? And 3 pillars of Scrum. Then the Scrum team, and then actually the Scrum events, and so Scrum artifacts we need to see. And before that, I am planning to take about the some actually essence of Scrum, right? So what is Scrum? So Scrum is not a methodology. That is the first important thing. Scrum is a framework that help people, team, or any organization generate value through adaptive solutions for complex problems. So Scrum requires a Scrum Master to face an environment where product owner orders the work for a complex problems into a product backlog. The Scrum team turns a selection of work into an increment of values during the sprint. Third point, the Scrum team and its stakeholders inspect the results and adjust for the next sprint. And finally, the Scrum Master is required to report this particular Scrum events or Scrum details, right? The Scrum is simple, right? And it's a structure help to achieve goals and create values. Scrum framework is purposefully incomplete, so only defining the part required to implement the Scrum theory. Scrum is built upon a collective intelligence of people using it rather than provide people with detailed instructions. Okay, and various process techniques and methods can be employed within the Scrum framework. Scrum wraps around existing practices or renders them unnecessary. Scrum is always visible the relative efficacy of the current management environment and work techniques, so it is important for what actually it is been designed. As already told, Scrum is a framework that is founded on empiricism and lean thinking. Empiricism means asserts that knowledge comes from the experience and making decisions based on what it is observed. Lean thinking reduces waste and focus on the essentials. Scrum employs an iterative incremental approach to optimize predictability and to control risk. Scrum normally engages group of people who collectively have all the skills and expertise, do the work, and share or acquire such skills as needed. Scrum is built up based on the combination or combines 4 formal events for the inspection, adaptation within the containing event, the sprint. These events work because they implement the empirical Scrum pillars of transparency, inspection, and adaptation. I already discussed about actually the transparency, inspection, and adoption. Those are very important. But in addition, transparency enables inspection. Inspection without a transparency is misleading and wasteful. Likewise, inspection enables adoption. Inspection without adoption is considered pointless. Scrum events are designed to provoke change. Adoption becomes more difficult when people involved are not empowered or self-managing. A Scrum team is expected to adapt the moment it learns anything new through the inspection. So immediately it will respond to the changing environment. That is important. But when the goal and everything should be fixed, it should not be changed. The Scrum values. The success of the Scrum depends on people becoming more proficient in the 5 values. What are the 5 values? Commitment, second focus, third one openness, fourth one respect, and fifth courage. Scrum team commits to achieve its goal and to support each other. The primary focus is on the work of the sprint to make the best possible progress towards these goals. The Scrum team and its stakeholders are open about the work and the challenges. The Scrum team members respect each other to be capable, independent people. That is called, I already told in the second video, they are self-management people and independent, and are respected as such by the people with whom they work. The Scrum team members have the courage to do the right thing, to work on a tough problems. These values, 5 values, right? Commitment, focus, openness, respect, and courage, gave the direction to the Scrum team with regards to their work, actions, and behavior. The decisions that are made, the steps taken, and the way the Scrum is used should reinforce these values, not diminish or undermine the values. The Scrum team members learn and explore the values as they work with the Scrum events and artifacts. When these values are embodied by the Scrum team and the people they work with, the empirical Scrum pillars of transparency, inspection, adoption come to the real-time life of building trust. So Scrum team, as already I told what is a Scrum team, right? It's a combination of product owner, Scrum master, and development team. The fundamental unit of Scrum is a small team of people, a Scrum team. A Scrum team consists of one Scrum master, one product owner, and one developer. So important thing actually I like to say, where the team one Scrum team should have only one product owner. If more product owner, then it is an anti-pattern, and we cannot we cannot run a long sprint or something. If running long sprint, then it will not give you value, and it is the cost and time effort is lengthier, so it is not recommended. Also, always sprint should be smaller. This is very important. So within the Scrum team, there are no sub-teams or hierarchies. Please ensure we cannot create a sub-teams within the sub-team. So there is no sub-team in the Scrum team. It is cohesive unit of professional focused on one objective at a time. That is called product goal. Product goal is the main focus or objective for a Scrum team. The Scrum teams are cross-functional. I already told, actually the PP consultant should know WM, SD, PM, QM, and the same way that MM consultant should know PP, WM, QM. Likewise, actually each module consultant can know the cross-functional knowledge, meaning the members have all the skills to create values each sprint. They are also self-managing. They need to handle or tackle the situations or any technical issues by their own managing skills, meaning they internally design who does
what, when, and now and how. So there is no team manager or a project manager kind of role in the Scrum theory, Scrum team. So project manager is not a part of the Scrum team. The Scrum team is small. It is very small to enough to remain small and have large capacity to enough to complete significant work within a sprint. Typically 10 or few people is required. In general, we have found that smaller teams communicate better and are more productive. If the Scrum team becomes too large, they should consider reorganizing into multiple cohesive Scrum teams, each focused on the same product, right? Therefore, they should share this. Scrum team should share the same product goal, same product backlog, and the same product owner. Okay, that is important. The Scrum team is responsible for all the product related activities, starting from stakeholders, collaborations, verifications, maintenance, operations, experimentation, any experimentations, new or old, research and development, and anything which might be required for the project related development. They are structured and empowered by organizing to manage their own work, right? That is important. Working in sprint at a sustainable phase improves the Scrum team's focus and consistency. So the entire Scrum team is responsible for creating a valuable, useful increment in each and every sprint. So the Scrum defines 3 accountabilities within the Scrum team: developers, product owner, and Scrum master. Okay, these are the important accountabilities. Means developers, product owner, and Scrum master. First we are going to see developer, that is development team. So the developers are the people in the Scrum team that are committed to create any aspect of useful increment at each sprint. So they have specific skills. Developers should have specific skills needed by the developers, so are often on board and will vary with the domain of work. So developers are always accountable for, say when question rises for which activities developers are accountable, means then developers are accountable for first one, creating a plan for the sprint, that is called sprint backlog, installing or instilling the quality by adhering to the definition of done. Third one, adapting their plan each day towards the sprint goal. And the fourth one, or fourth accountability, is holding each other accountable as professionals. These are the 4 accountabilities expected from the development team. So now we have product owner. What is the accountability or role of a product owner? So the product owner is accountable for maximizing the value of the product resulting from the work of the Scrum team. How this is done by or may vary widely across organization. Scrum teams and individual teams, right, can do lot of responsibilities within them. So product owner actually he's a person who can able to decide on the progress of the particular Scrum, particular activity, and then actually he is responsible for progressing or cancelling any event. So is accountable for the effective product backlog management. So effective product backlog management is accountability in the sense developing and expliciting developing and explicitly communicating the product goal. So he should communicate to all the stakeholders. So it's from actually normally product owner is from actually the client team, right? Actually it's a bridge between the end user or business leads and the IT team. Okay, and first thing, developing and explicitly communicating the product goal, that is his first accountability for your product owner. Second accountability for the product owner is creating and clearly communicating the product backlog items. Third accountability, ordering product backlog items. Fourth one, ensuring that product backlog is transparent. Transparent, you understand, right? It is visible to everyone and easily understood for each and everyone. So these are the important accountability for the product owners. The product owner may do all the four accountabilities, right? Developing and explicitly communicating the product goal. Second thing, creating and clearly communicating the product backlog items. Third one, ordering the product backlog items. Fourth one, ensuring that product backlog is transparent, visible and understood. So these are these important things. Here the product owner can able to delegate these roles and responsibility to other members in the team, but regardless, the product owner remains the total accountability, holding the total accountability. The product owner, for the product owner to get a success, the entire organization must respect their decisions. These decisions are visible in the content and ordering of the product backlog and through the inspectable increment at the sprint review. So the product owners should have more respect and experienced person. Normally when I am seeing in the project, the product owners are more senior persons and they have a tight control over the entire stakeholder team. So their words will be given more importance between these business teams or IT teams or business top management, all these people. For the product owner is one person and it is not a committee. That is important. But he is reporting to the top management. So he is communicating all the details to the top management. The product owner may represent the need of many stakeholders in the product backlog. Those wanting to change a product backlog can do so by trying to convince the product owner. So if the development team wants to change any product backlog related discussions or any changes, they need to communicate with the product owner. Normally the development team will be responsible for the sprint backlog and product backlog will be the changes or maintenance by the product owner. So if a management or someone actually want to change anything, they should communicate product owner and get their acceptance. Otherwise the product backlog cannot be changed. That is important thing. So then Scrum Master. The Scrum Master is accountable for establishing Scrum as defined in the Scrum policies, or Scrum is having a separate guide, right? Actually based on that they can able to follow their roles and accountabilities. They help everyone in the Scrum team understand the Scrum theory and practices and make them to practice both within the Scrum team and the organization. So the Scrum Master is accountable to the Scrum team's effectiveness. They will do that by enabling the Scrum team to improve its practices within the Scrum framework. Scrum Masters are the true leaders who serve the Scrum team and larger organizations. The Scrum Master serves the Scrum team in several ways, including, that is first one, coaching the team member in self-management and cross-functionality. Second thing, helping the Scrum team to focus on creating high-value increments that meet the definition of done. Third one, causing the removal of impediments, or that is a stoppage or showstoppers, right, to the Scrum team's progress. So you can remove that showstoppers in the progress of the Scrum team. Fourth one, ensuring that all the Scrum events takes place, all are positive, productive and kept within the time box. Each Scrum event is having the time box, I already told. So they should keep within the time frame. So for example, the daily Scrum should be 15 minutes long. So the discussion won't go beyond 15 minutes, right? So even though the Scrum Master is not controlling, the developer is responsible for the daily Scrum, but they need to advise the development team to keep within the 15 minutes time of discussion. It won't exceed maximum 15 minutes, more than 15 minutes. So the Scrum Master serves the product owner in several ways. So what are the ways means? First one, helping to find the techniques for effective product goal definitions and product backlog management. Second opportunity is helping the Scrum team to understand the need for a clear and concise product backlog items. Third, by helping to establish the empirical product planning for the entire complex environment. And fourth one, by facilitating the stakeholder collaboration as requested or needed. The Scrum Master serves the organization in several ways by including, first one, by leading, training and coaching the organization in its Scrum adoption. Second point, planning and advising Scrum implementations within the organization. Third one, helping the employees and stakeholders understand and interact with the empirical approach of the Scrum for the complex work. Fourth point, removing barriers between stakeholders and Scrum teams. So please bear in mind, the product owner will act as a bridge between the business people and IT team, and Scrum Master will act as a bridge between the product owner and the IT team. So the product owner will not control is not a manager, but he will control he is responsible, accountable for all the functional, technical, actually backlogs and everything. So the project manager is not a part of Scrum team. That is important. So he may have a lot of things, right? Actually, is dealing the financial, budgeting, costing, resourcing, everything that will be taken care by the project manager. But once the project is coming into picture, the Scrum team will take the ownership. There is product owner, the Scrum Master and the development team. Scrum events, right? The sprint is a container. What is a Scrum event means? The sprint is a container for all other events. Each event in the Scrum is formal opportunity to inspect and adapt Scrum artifacts. So Scrum artifacts we are planning to discuss in this video. Okay, we will do in the later part of the video. These events are specifically designed to enable the transparency required. Failure to operate any events as prescribed results in lost opportunities to inspect and adapt. Events are used in the Scrum to create regularity and to minimize the need for the meetings not defined in the Scrum. Optimally, all events are held at the same time and a place to reduce the complexity. So the sprint. What is a sprint? If anyone is asking, sprint is we can say in short, heartbeat of the Scrum, where ideas are turned into values. So sprint is a place where ideas given by the different people are turned into values. They are fixed. The sprint events are I can say is fixed length events of more than 1 month or less to create a consistency. A new sprint starts immediately after the conclusion of the previous sprint. All the work necessary to achieve the product backlog, including sprint planning, daily Scrum, sprint review and sprint retrospective, happen within the sprints. So that is what all the work necessary to achieve the product goal, including sprint planning, daily Scrums, sprint review and sprint retrospective, happens within the sprint. So during the sprint, what activities you can see, right? That is very important. During the sprint, first point, no changes are made that would endanger the sprint goal. The sprint goal should not be changed. Second thing, quality does not decrease. Third thing, the product backlog is refined as needed. And fourth will be scope may be clarified and renegotiated with the product owner as more is learned. Okay, these are the important points we need to consider during the sprint. So no changes are made that would endanger the sprint goal. And second thing, quality does not decrease, that is important. Third thing, product backlog is refined, as much refined as needed and required. Fourth one, scope may be clarified and renegotiated with the product owner as more is learned. Okay, so we cannot change the sprint goal at any cost, and quality also does not decrease. Quality always we need to maintain, and product backlog is refined as and when required. Scope may be clarified and renegotiated at any point of time with the product owner as more is learned from them. Sprint enables predictability by ensuring inspections and adaptation of progress towards the product goal. At least every sprint should have a properly sequenced, or actually it should not deviate from the sprint goal. So every sprint should be predictably by ensuring inspection and adaptation of progress towards the product goal at least every calendar month. When sprint's horizon is too long, the sprint goal may become invalid. Complexity may arise and risk may increase. So always recommended is shorter sprints can be employed to generate more learning. Okay, more learning cycles and limit the risk of cost and effort to smaller time frame. Each sprint may be considered a short project. Various practices exist to forecast progress, like burn down, burn ups or cumulative flows. While proven useful, right, these do not replace the importance of empiricism. In complex environment, what will happen is unknown. Only what has already happened may be used for forward-looking decisions making. The sprint could be cancelled if the sprint goal becomes obsolete. So only the product owner has the authority to cancel the sprint. Okay, this is very important. If the sprint goal becomes obsolete, then sprint should be cancelled, but that is cancellation will be done by the product owner. Sprint planning. Now we are in the important phase of the Scrum event. Sprint planning initiates the sprint by laying out work to be performed for the sprint. This resulting plan is created by the collaborative work of the entire Scrum team. The product owner ensures that attendees are prepared to discuss most important product backlog items and how they map to the product goal. The Scrum team may also invite other people to attend the sprint planning to provide advice. Sprint planning addresses the following topics. What are they? So, sprint planning addresses why the sprint is valuable, what can be done during this particular sprint, and how will we choose how the product backlog items chosen when work get done. When considering why this sprint is valuable, the product owner proposes how the product could increase its value and utility in the current sprint. The whole Scrum team then collaborates to define a sprint goal that communicates why the sprint is valuable to the stakeholder. The sprint goal must be finalized prior to the end of the sprint planning. Second thing, what can be done during this sprint? Through Through decisions with the product owner, the developers select the items from the product backlog to include in the current sprint. The Scrum team may refine these items during this process, which increases understanding and confidence. Selecting how much can be proposed within the sprint may be challenging. However, the more the developer knows about their past performance, their upcoming capacity, and the definition of done, the more confident they will be in their sprint forecast. So, third one, how will the chosen work get done? For each selected product backlog items, the developer plan the work necessary to create an increment that meets the definition of done. This is often done by decomposing product backlog items into smaller work items of 1 day or less. How this is done is at the sole discretion of the developers. No one else tells them how to turn the product backlog items into increment of values. The sprint goal, right? The sprint goal, the product backlog items selected for the sprint plus the plan for delivering items are together called as a sprint backlog. So what is a sprint backlog? Sprint backlog is a combination of sprint goal, second thing, product backlog items selected for the sprint, third one, plan for delivering all together, or referred to as sprint backlog. Sprint planning is a time box to a maximum of either 8 hours for one month sprint. For shorter sprint, the event is usually shorter. Okay, that is the beauty of the sprint planning. Daily Scrum. The purpose of the daily Scrum is to inspect progress towards the sprint goal and adapt the sprint backlog as necessary and adjusting the upcoming planned work. The daily Scrum is a 15-minute event for the developer of the Scrum team. To reduce the complexity, it is held at the same time and place every working day of the sprint. If the product owner or the Scrum Master are actively working on items in the sprint backlog, they participate as developers. That is important. That is what I already told. If the product owner or the Scrum Master are actively working as a part of the development in the sprint backlog, then they also participate in the daily sprint, but it is not mandatory for them to join. The developers can select whatever structure and techniques they want as long as the daily Scrum focuses on progress towards the sprint goal and produces an actionable plan for the next day of work. This creates focus and improves self-management. Okay, and then daily Scrum improves communication, identify showstoppers, promote quick decision making, and consequently eliminate the need for other meetings. So if the daily Scrum is more effective, then we can replace the unnecessary calls, right? Follow-up calls and everything. So this is how actually the developers has to take the ownership. So how they can take it as much efficiency as possible, that is within their hands. So the daily Scrum is not only the time the developers are allowed to adjust their plan. They often meet throughout the day for more detailed discussions about adapting or replanning the rest of the sprint work. I already told the planning is continuous from end-to-end part in the Scrum, whereas in the waterfall it is done, the planning is done at the initial phase. Now sprint review. The purpose of the sprint review is to inspect the outcome of the sprint and determine the future adaptations. The Scrum team presents the result of their work to the key stakeholders and progress towards the product goal is discussed. During the event, that is Scrum event, or actually the sprint review, the Scrum team and the stakeholders review what was accomplished in the sprint and what has changed in the environment based on this information. So based on this information, attendees collaborate on what to do next. The product backlog may also be adjusted to meet new opportunities. The sprint review is a working session and the Scrum team should avoid limiting it to a presentation. The sprint review is a second to last event of the sprint and is time boxed to a maximum of 4 hours for a 1 month sprint. For shorter sprint, the event is usually shorter. It depends on the time boxing, right? And sprint retrospective is a final stage or final phase or meeting in the Scrum. That is a Scrum event or a sprint. The purpose of the sprint retrospective is to plan ways to increase the quality and the effectiveness. The Scrum team inspects how the last sprint went with regards to the individuals, interactions, process, tools, and other definitions of done. So inspected elements often vary within the domain work. The assumptions that lead them or led them away or identified under the organization or origins are explored. The Scrum team discuss what went well during the sprint, right, and what problem it encountered and how those problems were or were not, right. Those are identified during the sprint retrospective. That is, it is to plan ways to increase the quality and effectiveness, right. That is important. The Scrum team identifies the most helpful changes to improve its effectiveness. The most impactful and improvements are addressed as soon as possible. They may even be added to the sprint backlog for the next sprint. The sprint retrospective concludes the sprint. It is a time box to a maximum of 3 hours for a 1 month sprint. For shorter sprint, the event is usually shorter. Say for example, 15 days means it is I can say 1.5 hours. 1.5 hours it is planned, right? Retrospective. So we have now come to the point of Scrum artifacts. The Scrum artifacts represents the work or value. They are designed to maximize the transparency of the key information. So everyone inspecting them as the same basis for adoption. Each artifact contains commitments to ensure it provides the information that enhances transparency and focus against which progress can be measured. So artifacts in the sense, for the product backlog it is a product goal. For a sprint backlog it is a sprint goal. For increment it is a definition of that. These are the artifacts. These commitments exist to reinforce empiricism and Scrum values for the Scrum team and their stakeholders. And now we have product backlog. We already saw a sprint backlog and now we are seeing product backlog. So product backlog in the sense, the product backlog is an emergent ordered list of what is needed to improve the particular product. It is single source of work undertaken by the Scrum team. The product backlog items that can be done by the Scrum team within one sprint are deemed ready for the selection of sprint planning event. They usually acquire this degree of transparency after refining activities. Product backlog refinement is the act of breaking down and further defining product backlog items into smaller, more precise items. This is an ongoing activity, right, to add details such as descriptions, order and size. Attributes often vary within the domain of work. The developers who will be doing the work are responsible for sizing. The product owner may influence the developer by helping them understand and select the trade-offs. So then actually we have commitment, right, for the product goal. The product goal describes a future state of the product which can serve as a target for the Scrum team to plan against. The product goal is in the product backlog. The rest of the product backlog emerges to define what will fulfill the product goal. A product is a vehicle or to deliver a value. It has a clear boundary, known stakeholders, well-defined users or customers. A product could be a service, a physical product, or something more abstract. The product goal is a long-term objective for the Scrum team. They must fulfill or abandon one objective before taking on the next. Now we have sprint backlog. Sprint backlog is composed of sprint goal. That is why we need to do particular thing. The set of product backlogging items selected for the sprint. The sprint is what we need to do, as well as actionable plan for delivering the incremental things. So increment in these things means how we need to do. These are the difference. Say sprint goal means why, and the sprint means what, and then actionable plan for delivering the increment means how. These are the important things. The sprint backlog is a plan by and for the developers. It is highly visible, real-time picture of the work that the developer planned to accomplish during the sprint in order to achieve the sprint goal. Sprint backlog is a plan by and for the developers. It is highly visible, real-time pictures of work that the developers plan to accomplish during the sprint in order to achieve the sprint goal. Consequently, the sprint backlog is updated throughout the sprint as more as the things are learned. So it should have enough detail that can inspect their progress in the daily Scrum. So commitment, sprint goal. So what is the commitment in the sprint goal? So the sprint goal is a single objective for the sprint. Although the sprint goal is commitment by the developers, it provides flexible in terms of exact work needed to achieve it. The sprint goal also creates coherence and focus, encouraging the Scrum team to work together rather than separate initiatives. So the sprint goal is created during the sprint planning event and then added to the sprint backlog. As the developers work during the sprint, they keep sprint goal in mind. If the work turns out to be different than they expected, they collaborate with the product owner to negotiate the scope of work, scope of the sprint backlog within the sprint without affecting the sprint goal. So product goal and sprint goal we are categorizing as commitment. Okay. So I hope you understand, right? The sprint goal is created during the sprint planning event and added to the sprint backlog. As developers work during the sprint, they keep sprint goal in mind, right? Always they need to keep sprint goal in mind. If the work turns out to be different, then they need to collaborate with the product owner to negotiate the scope of the sprint backlog within the sprint without affecting the sprint goal. That is very, very important. So they need to coordinate with the product owner, the developers. So increment. So what is an increment, right? An increment is a concrete stepping stone towards the product goal. Each increment is additive to all the prior increments and thoroughly verified, ensuring that all increments work together in order to provide value. The increment must be usable. Okay. And multiple increments may be created within the sprint. The sum of the increments is presented at the sprint review that's supporting the empiricism. However, An increment may be delivered to stakeholders prior to the end of the sprint. The sprint review should never be considered a gate to release value. Work cannot be considered part of an increment unless it meets the definition of done. That is important. It should be completed. Otherwise, we cannot consider as an increment. Particular work cannot be considered as an increment. So, commitment, that is, we have finally definition of done. So, definition of done, sprint goal, product goal, or commitments. The definition of done is a formal description of the statement of the increment when it meets the quality measures required for the particular product. The moment a product backlog item meets the definition of done, an increment is born. Important thing, when the increment is born, the moment a product backlog items meets the definition of done, then an increment is born. The definition of done creates transparency by providing everyone a shared understanding of what work was completed as a part of the increment. If the product backlog items does not meet the definition of done, it cannot be released or even presented at the sprint review. Instead, it returns to the product backlog for the future considerations. If the definition of done for an increment is a part of the standards of organization, all the Scrum teams must follow it as a minimum. If it is not an organization standard, the Scrum team must create a definition of done appropriate for the product. The developers are required to conform to the definition of done. If there are multiple Scrum teams working together on a product, they must mutually define and comply within the definition of done. So, these are the important things actually considered in the Scrum. So, we need to have detailed actually artifacts, right? Scrum artifacts. So, various artifacts are created in the Scrum. All these are, we have already seen. All these are adding values to the customer. Hence, all the artifacts are needed. Apart from this, the team may decide if any other artifacts are needed, and if so, make them. Right? They can add that. However, we should always uphold the thinking of only making those artifacts that are deemed necessary to add value to the customer. So, those artifacts adding value to the customer should be considered. Okay. Say for example, product vision that is often used but not defined in the Scrum. To build a software application that will assist in buying and selling of bikes. The product vision statement is a statement that is created during the strategy meeting that describes the business visions. It gives view to all the involved about why the work is being undertaken and what is expected from it. So, second, product roadmap, so often used but not defined in the Scrum. Product roadmap, so in the sense actually in 2017 what are the features determined, and 2014 what are the list of features determined. Likewise, they will consider for each year. So the product roadmap is a pictorial representation of which features would be delivered in which release. So we need to know that, we need to document it, right? We shall look at this in more detail in coming videos. It is also created during the strategy meeting. Third one, product backlog that is defined in the Scrum, I have already told. So high priority items will be placed first. So that is in the release 1. The items in this area are mostly prioritized. In release 2, might prioritize features at this depth based on the targeted product roadmap release. Example, release 2 or release 3. In release 3, those are actually low priority items. Little or no effort prioritizing items within the future release. Example, release 2 or release 3. The product backlog contains a list of requirements generally in the form of user stories. It is also created during the strategy meeting. It is arranged using the priority from the product owner, based on which one adds how much business value to it. The prioritization process may also involve inputs on risk involved within the user stories. A product backlog may be changed to add more details or to refine estimates. This is referred to as grooming or refinement of the product backlog. Fourth active fact, release backlog, often used but not defined in the Scrum. Release backlog is created during the release planning meeting and includes only those user stories that are to be delivered in that release. It is subset of the product backlog. Okay. And the fifth artifact is Scrum artifact is sprint backlog, that is defined in the Scrum. Sprint backlog is a subset of release backlogs and contains only those user stories that are targeted to be delivered in the particular sprint. It is also accompanied by a plan for the sprint. It is created during the sprint planning meeting. Final one, definition of done, DOD, simply called a DOD, defined in the Scrum. Definition of done consists of completion of actions required for deliverables in a sprint. For example, peer review, unit testing, and meeting acceptance criteria can be a part of this. Deliverables cannot be said to be completed until these actions have been successfully completed. So we need to now, actually we are in position to discuss on the Scrum chronology, right, of events. First, as a Scrum event, the strategy meeting is considered. Second, release planning meeting. Third one, sprint planning meeting. And fourth one, sprint. Fifth event is daily Scrum. Sixth one is sprint meeting. And so seventh one will be sprint retrospective meeting. And finally, product demo. Okay. This product demo will be given as a feedback to the release planning meeting. And likewise, sprint retrospective meeting is given as an input to the sprint planning meeting, and daily Scrum will be inputted to the sprint meeting, right? These are the important things. First, the strategy meeting is held to make a product backlog. The work is then broken down into release, starting with the release planning meeting and ending with the product demo. Within release, there are several sprints that start within the sprint planning meeting and end with the sprint review and sprint retrospective meeting. Within a sprint, we have daily Scrum meeting or a call. That is to be considered very important. And now we have different releases. Now, those are not specifically defined in the Scrum. Only sprints are defined. However, it is common agile practice that is used on Scrum to break the work into release and then into sprints. Sprint release only break down into sprints. Okay, that is important. So it's just a recollection or quick recap. Scrum methodology is the most popular agile methodology that has 1 to 4 weeks of iteration called a sprint. Scrum starts with product backlog, from which a sprint backlog is created during the sprint planning based on the prioritization done by the product owner. A daily Scrum meeting is held for a quick knowledge sharing of work done. Going to be work done, going to be done, and any impediments or that is showstoppers. Sprint review is held to showcase the done deliverables, and sprint retrospective is for identifying improvements for the next sprint. Strategy meeting, release planning meeting, and product demo may also be held but are not defined as a part of Scrum. Important fourth point, product owners represents the business, Scrum Master is a servant leader, and development team is a cross-function and implementation team. And fifth point, product backlog contains all the requirements. Sprint backlog contains only those requirements that the team would deliver in the sprint. Definition of done consists of criteria that need to be satisfied to say that certain work is complete or incomplete. Product visions, product roadmap, and release backlog may also be created, but not defined in the Scrum. So before working in any Scrum project or Agile project, you need to consider the chronology of the Scrum events, how they are planned, how much time box they are planned. So these are the important factors to be considered. I hope this third video will help you or to give an insight how the Agile methodology works, how the Scrum works, right? Because Scrum methodology is Scrum is not a methodology, it's a framework, it's a part of Agile methodology. Okay, that is important. I hope the details have given here are very useful, friends. So now we can in my next videos we can discuss on Agile planning, Agile executions, all these things, and how to track the particular Agile activities or Agile events in the particular projects. So how the planning is done, everything we can discuss in the upcoming videos. Thanks for the kind support. This is G.V. Shivakumar signing off, friends. Thanks. Good afternoon, friends. This is G.V. Shivakumar again. Thanks for the continuous